Right everyone, we're back. It's Friday. Happy weekend. Happy St. Patrick's Day as well to all of our Irish viewers and indeed anyone who enjoys a pint of Guinness from time to time. It's a good day to be called Patrick, unless your surname is Vieira. He was sacked earlier as Crystal Palace manager on St. Patrick's Day. Couldn't really make it up. It was announced at 8:02 this morning by the London-based club. At 9:12, we had this from the Glasgow Times. Crystal Palace manager latest as Ange Postecoglou, an early favourite. I just can't believe it took them over an hour. Okay, usual Friday script for us today. We'll chat about some of the Celtic related stories that have come up since our last video on Tuesday and go through them, and we'll also then of course look ahead to this weekend's game. Tomorrow Hibernian visit Celtic Park, so we'll save the latter portion of the video for that. But there really is only one place to start, and you know what I'm going to say. It is the news that there will be no away fans at the final two league derbies of this season. We are due to face Rangers at Celtic Park on April the 8th. We're also due to go to Ibrox sometime in May, and there will be no away fans for either of those fixtures. So no Rangers fans at Celtic Park, no Celtic fans at Ibrox. And it is understood that Celtic made the decision not to take tickets for the Ibrox fixture on the basis of fan safety and match experience. Now, Celtic phoned around the various fan media outlets earlier today, and they made it clear that they, as a club, want a return to the old allocations, so around 7,000 tickets for Ibrox, the Broomloan stand, and Rangers getting, I think, just over 8,000 for Celtic Park. Celtic did want to make it clear that they have not taken a joint decision to ban away derby supports. The club have rejected tickets for Ibrox, feeling that the matchday experience for the 700 or so Celtic fans is poor. Now, this is a pretty polarising debate, so I'll tread very carefully. Some of you watching this, I'm sure, will have the view of, great, we don't want any Rangers fans near Celtic Park, and you know, that's fair enough, each to their own. My own viewpoint, and genuinely I stress it's just my viewpoint, I'm not trying to tell anyone the right answer here. There is no real right answer here, there's just opinions, and my own opinion is that this fixture is one of the bigger derbies around, and I think what it has going for it is the atmosphere and the animosity between the two sets of supporters. And I just think the fixture has been weakened drastically since they threw their toys out the pram back in the middle of 2018 after we dished out another beating to them at Ibrox and they cut our allocation. And the fixture hasn't been quite the same since then. Listen, they're still amazing games. I mean, like beating them 4-0 earlier this season was incredible. Loved that day. But I just feel there's something missing. Just that little edge has been taken away by this move. And as I say, it's very much of Rangers doing. So the question really now is what happens now, and there are a few options, a few ways I can see this playing out. So do we continue with what's going to happen for the rest of this season and have no away fans at every single derby at Celtic Park and Ibrox going forward? Possibly, maybe that's the way this goes. As I've just said, I think that would be a real shame, a genuine shame. People might look back at the 3-0 win over them last season, no Rangers fans at that game, and say that was one of the best nights of my life, your life, and it was one of the best nights of my life as well. But I don't really think that was much to do with the fact there was no Rangers fans there. I think it was loads of other things, circumstances kind of coming together for that. The fact it was a night game, the fact we hadn't beaten them in so long, that we could go top of the league, that we scored an early goal, that Ange and the team just have this amazing connection. I felt like everything came together that night, and I don't know if them having no fans really was a big factor. I think it would be a shame going forward if that is the case. Another option is, do we continue with the 700 or so away fans like we've seen for pretty much the last 3, 4, 5 seasons? Well, I would say the very fact that Celtic are ruling that out for the rest of this season would suggest that that isn't an option going forward. There's been real issues with safety. Now, I just want to say at this point that the vast majority have come in one stadium, and it's not Celtic Park, so I think we should all remember that. While some people report it as a kind of 50-50 thing, there's certainly been far more issues at Ibrox. I don't think Celtic fans have smashed bottles off the crossbar and had goalkeepers trying to find glass before starting the second half. I don't think a Rangers physio was hit by a bottle at Celtic Park. So I would say these issues are mainly from a Rangers point of view, and I think that's probably part of what Celtic have done with regards to making this decision. So I don't think 700 or so away fans is a viable option going forward. Do we go back to the original allocations, the ones we had prior to Rangers liquidation in 2012, and also kind of mainly in the Brendan Rodgers days? We had 8,000 Rangers fans at Celtic Park, around 7,000 Celtic fans at Ibrox. Do we go back to that? I would say that isn't an option, a genuine kind of option, given the increased season ticket sales. I think at both clubs, but specifically Rangers, they have certainly sold season tickets in the Broomloan stand where we used to be. Or do we have another option that is gaining support from both sides, I would say? Not everyone, but certainly one that people seem to be warming to. Do we go down the middle and go for this European allocation? So just to clarify, a European allocation is 5% of a stadium's capacity. So 3,000 away fans at Celtic Park, like we saw Bayern Munich take in recent times, and I think just over 2,500 fans at Ibrox, which is what Borussia Dortmund had last season, for example. So to me, that would seem to tick a few of the boxes. It would create a good atmosphere. You'd have a kind of audible and visual away element to that fixture, and it would also not run into like the other issues I mentioned in terms of season tickets and also them not wanting to be seen to be backing down to our demands. So this for me is a viable option out of all the ones I've listed, and I actually think it's what we might see next season. Now, some people watching this, you might think that's pretty ambitious, fanciful perhaps on my part. I think this is the way it's heading, basically because the other three options I think are just not viable. So yes, I hope it's sorted for next season, because the derby is much better when you've got fans of both teams there. That's something I never thought I would have to actually say. Worth saying that the upcoming Scottish Cup semi-final at Hampden will not be affected by this. We'll still have the same kind of 50-50 support, around about 25,000 supporters from Celtic and Rangers at that semi-final. We do know the exact details for that game too. They were announced earlier in the week. The match is the second of the semis, with Inverness versus Falkirk on the Saturday at 12:15. That certainly got a lot of people talking. Our match against Rangers is on the Sunday and will get underway at 1:30. It will be live exclusively on Viaplay, or is it Viaplay Sports, that channel. So yeah, not a great deal to really say about that. A few people voicing concerns about what the pitch will look like. Legitimate concerns, I think, as well. It looked better for the League Cup final against Rangers, but it did still seem to cut up a little bit in the closing stages of that match, and given there's a full other match on the day before, that may be an issue, but we'll have to hope for little or no rain in the lead up to that. Now, changing it up entirely, just briefly on international call-ups, that's been a big kind of talking point over the last few days. Now, most of this stuff we are going to cover in a video early next week once we actually hit the international break. But there have been a number of our key players who haven't been called up for their countries, which I find a little bit surprising, although when you dig a little bit deeper, there are reasons for the majority of them. Moriyasu. I'm talking about 4 players in particular. Let's take them one by one. Greg Taylor wasn't named in the Scotland squad by Steve Clarke. Actually, only Callum McGregor included there from a Celtic point of view. Now, Clarke alluded to some fitness issues with Taylor. Very kind of cloak and dagger stuff from Steve Clarke. We did then get some more information. Reports emerged yesterday that Taylor has been playing through a bit of a knock recently, a lower leg issue. That's why he wasn't included in the team for the league game against Hearts 10 days ago. And it's felt that rest over the international period could benefit him. So that's positive. Just as I'm recording, by the way, I'm getting reports of what Anne just said about the players available for tomorrow. So Greg Taylor is one of the players who is available for selection tomorrow. Whether that means he plays or not, you'll have to wait and see in my predicted 11. That today I'm going to ad-lib. I've not planned for it at all. Elsewhere, similar story with Cameron Carter-Vickers, who wasn't called up for the USA. Their interim boss, Anthony Hudson, mentioned a knee issue there. So again, another Celtic player not fully fit at the moment, but again, CCV available for the game tomorrow. And then there's the issue of Japan and Hajime Moriyasu, their manager. First of all, well done to Daizen Maeda for earning a call-up for Japan. No idea how Reo Hatate and Kyogo Furuhashi aren't being called up. Probably our two best attacking players. Maybe that's controversial. You'll know the story by now. Moriyasu mentioned the standard of Scottish football. Bit of a contradiction given that Maeda has been called up. We did get a message, or I got a message from a friend of the channel, Sam Robson, who wanted to offer his thoughts and also hear what I had to say. So he's pretty surprised at both Hatate and Kyogo not getting called up. He reckons Hatate is in a pretty tough area of the pitch, although he still would have called him up. But Kyogo, he says, is better than the four strikers who have been called up. So very strange. Some of the chat is that Kyogo doesn't fit the style of play that Japan play, but Maeda tends to play up front, and I would say Kyogo and Maeda are relatively similar in terms of the way they play the game. There's obviously differences there, but we're talking about relatively similar players. Kyogo could certainly do the role that Maeda does for Japan. Sam also mentions that Kyogo hasn't ever really put in a proper performance for Japan, so maybe Moriyasu uses that against him, but he hasn't really had a lot of opportunities either. From a Celtic point of view, a kind of short-term Celtic point of view, it's good news that these players aren't going to pick up injuries on the international duty. They're going to hopefully get a little bit of a rest over the next couple of weeks and be ready for the run-in. It's good news with regards to that. Thinking more longer term, you just worry if these players may feel they have to leave Celtic to play in a more competitive league. I guess the Champions League is the most competitive league, and hopefully we're going to be in there next season, and hopefully Hatate and Kyogo and a number of other Celtic players can shine at that level. Now, just briefly changing it up, a wee graphic we made for social media that we want to just share with you. Who do you think has made the most appearances for Celtic under Ange Postecoglou? Is it Joe Hart? Is it Jota? Is it Kyogo? Is it Carl Starfelt? Is it Christopher Julian? No, it's someone else. It's Liel Abada. Now, bearing in mind, we've played 101 competitive matches under Ange. Liel Abada's featured in 94 of them, starting 56. Joe Hart has the most starts of any Celtic player. You'll be unsurprised probably to hear all 93 of his appearances coming from the start. You've got Callum McGregor in there with 80 starts. CCV, every appearance he's made has been a start as well. And yeah, they're all players who have obviously been here since pretty much the start, with the exception of Daizen Maeda at the end there, squeezing into the top 10 and was signed, 6 months into the Postecoglou reign. So yeah, some interesting ones in there. I just think it's funny that Abada's played, in more separate matches than anyone else, but obviously, not far off half of them coming off the bench. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. Tomorrow, it is Hibernian at Celtic Park. The Hibees, as they like to be known, are led by Lee Johnson and sit fourth in the Scottish Premiership. They were actually on a really good run before they lost to Rangers about 10 days ago. They are missing a few players. They're missing the likes of Rocky Bashiri, Joe Newell, Kyle McGuinness, Martin Boyle. Aidan McGeady also out for the season, so he won't be making a return to Celtic Park tomorrow. But still a number of players there that we should keep an eye on. Nisbet is an obvious one. I really like the guy Ewan, Ellie Ewan. He's an attacker and is probably one of the better players outside of Celtic in the league. So he's one we're going to have to watch. I think he scored at Celtic Park earlier in the season as well. So we're going to have to watch him tomorrow. But it is, as it basically always is, about Celtic tomorrow. Ange spoke to the media earlier today. This is where I start improvising. The kind of disappointing news from an injury point of view is that both Aaron Moy and Tomoki Iwata won't play tomorrow. They've both been ruled out of the fixture. The good news is that Greg Taylor, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Carl Starfelt are all available for selection. I assume Dyson Maeda is as well. I think we can already had that covered earlier on in the week. So again, as I try to do this off the top of my head, let's give it a go. Joe Hart in goal. I'm going to go with Alistair Johnson at right back. We're going to have Cameron Carter-Vickers and Carl Starfelt in at centre back. And I'm going to put Greg Taylor in as well. I know there's questions over CCV and Taylor. They're clearly fit enough to play kind of one last game before getting their feet up for 2 weeks. So I'm going with that. In midfield, given that Moy is out, I think we'll see McGregor, Hatate and O'Reilly. That probably picks itself. And, going forward, I think Jota will play. Tempted to see Haksabanovic again from the start. No, I'll go Jota, Maeda, Kyogo. That's what I'll go for. But I wouldn't be totally surprised if Haksabanovic starts the game. So yeah, that's kind of us. Looking forward to the match tomorrow. Always enjoy games against Hibs. I think they'll come out and take the game to us. And that should suit us as well. You know, there should be a good crowd in at Celtic Park. Maybe been a wee while since we had a Saturday 3 o'clock game. I think Aberdeen might have been the last one. And hopefully it's just another opportunity to just get another 3 points. Really finish off this incredible run we've had since, just after the World Cup. It's been amazing form, and it'd just be nice to finish it off with another victory. Send us into the international break in a brilliant place. And looking forward to it. We'll have a reaction for you after the game tomorrow. Enjoy it if you're going, if you're watching around the world, wherever you are. I hope you get to enjoy your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever, whenever the game's on. And as I say, we'll be back post-match talking a load of nonsense.